Just 1 minute ago, Ricky Gervais said the one thing no celebrity was supposed to say. For months, he stayed quiet, joking about politics from the sidelines, refusing to take sides, but not this time. Not when the government crossed a line. In a moment that stunned the audience and sent shockwaves through Westminster, Ricky looked straight into the camera and said, "This is a police state." You could feel the air leave the room. For a man known for mocking Hollywood elites and media hypocrisy, this wasn't comedy anymore, it was a warning. And the reaction? Instant chaos. Government advisors started scrambling, briefings were rushed out. For years, Starmer's team treated critics like Gervais as irrelevant entertainers who should stick to comedy. But this time they couldn't laugh it off because Ricky didn't just make a joke, he exposed something much deeper. He hinted at what he called a plan hiding in plain sight, a system of control that's already being built, and everyone watching knew exactly what he was talking about, but no one wanted to say it out loud. The digital ID. The quiet project that Starmer thought he could push through unnoticed. But now, thanks to one sentence from Britain's most fearless comedian, the whole country's asking the question Starmer didn't want to hear. What are you really planning? At first, the reaction from Downing Street was silence. No statements, no denials, just an uneasy quiet, the kind that only happens when the system's been caught off guard. Behind the scenes, aides were panicking. According to leaks, emergency calls went out within minutes of Gervais's clip going viral. Ministers were warned not to comment publicly. The press office drafted 3 different responses and scrapped all of them. Because how do you fight back against someone like Ricky Gervais? He's not a politician. He doesn't need votes, donors, or permission to speak. He can say what millions are thinking, and they can't censor him without proving his point. And that's what terrified them most. For the first time, the government's carefully managed image was cracking. The digital ID plan, once buried in policy papers and quiet interviews, was suddenly front-page news. All because one man with nothing to lose said the words they didn't want anyone to say out loud. What made it worse was how Ricky said it. Not in a speech, not in a rant, but in a joke. A single cutting line that sliced straight through the government's talking points. When your government wants to scan your face just to buy milk, that's not progress, that's a police state. The audience laughed, but everyone knew he wasn't really joking. Clips of the moment spread like wildfire across X, TikTok and YouTube. Millions watched within hours. Hashtags like #PoliceStateUK and #RickyVizStarmer started trending. Even mainstream outlets that usually ignored Gervais couldn't resist covering it, though they tried to frame it as controversial comedy. But the damage was done. The public wasn't laughing at the joke. They were laughing because it was true. And for Starmer, that's the most dangerous kind of comedy, the kind that turns a punchline into a movement. The reason Ricky's words hit so hard wasn't just because they were funny, it's because they exposed something real. For months, the UK government has been quietly advancing plans for a nationwide digital ID system. They say it's about convenience and security. But behind closed doors, critics warn it's about control, tracking transactions, movements, even access to basic services. And Ricky called it what it is. He said, when politicians say it's to make life easier, it's usually to make watching you easier. That line hit harder than any opposition speech. Within hours, people started digging up clips of Starmer praising modern identity infrastructure. Suddenly, the dots connected. Ricky had ripped the mask off the modernisation narrative, and for the first time, millions saw what digital ID could really mean for their freedom. The moment Ricky exposed the digital ID flaws, the quiet panic inside Downing Street turned into full-blown urgency. Leaks reveal that Starmer's aides scrambled into emergency meetings, debating whether to respond immediately or stay silent. Every option carried risk. Speaking out could validate Gervais's critique, but silence made the government look indecisive and weak. Starmer, known for caution and careful calculation, hesitated. And that hesitation became a story in itself. Headlines flashed across tabloids and social media. Starmer, frozen as comedian, exposes digital ID concerns and Labour struggles to answer Gervais' challenge. The public now saw a leader caught off guard, a party unsure how to defend its policies, and a government suddenly exposed to scrutiny from outside the political class. Once the clip went viral, the reaction was immediate and intense. Social media erupted with debates, memes, and commentary dissecting every word Ricky had said. Ordinary citizens shared the video with captions like, "Finally someone says it," and "This is what we've been warning about." Online forums lit up with discussions about privacy, government overreach, and digital freedom. Even those who didn't usually follow politics were suddenly paying attention. The narrative had escaped the studio and Downing Street entirely. The story was now in the hands of the public, spreading faster than any official statement could contain. Starmer and his team could no longer manage the conversation. The momentum had shifted, and the pressure was now fully on the government to respond. Traditional media tried to regain control, but every attempt only amplified the story. Outlets like the BBC, The Guardian, and Sky ran segments analysing Ricky's comments, dissecting the implications of digital ID and speculating on the government's next move. Pundits argued on live TV while news websites published explainer articles and opinion pieces. The attempt to downplay Gervais' remarks backfired. Now, the narrative wasn't just about digital ID, it was about government credibility, Starmer's leadership, and whether Britain was truly heading toward a surveillance state. Every media mention made the clip more viral, and the public debate grew more heated by the hour. Behind closed doors, the chaos only intensified. Leaks suggest senior aides were split. Some urged Starmer to respond quickly to contain the fallout, while others warned that any statement would validate Ricky's critique and make things worse. Starmer, true to form, hesitated, his careful approach turning into a public weakness. Cabinet meetings stretched late into the night, with ministers debating talking points, press strategies, and how to reassure a worried public. Every delay became a story itself, showing a party caught between defending its policies and managing its credibility under unprecedented scrutiny. Ricky's intervention didn't just spark headlines, it set off a chain reaction that Labour couldn't contain. Social media continued to explode with clips, threads, and heated debates dissecting every nuance of his comments. Citizens, commentators, and opposition MPs alike joined the conversation, forcing a national discussion on privacy, government overreach, and personal freedom. Starmer's cautious, scripted responses felt slow and inadequate in comparison, highlighting the contrast between his technocratic style and Ricky's direct, no-nonsense approach. Even allies struggled to defend the party, and every public statement risked further scrutiny. The digital ID plan, once quietly progressing behind the scenes, was now under a spotlight of unprecedented intensity. Ricky hadn't just made a joke, he had exposed a tension between the government and the public, forced a debate on civil liberties, and shown that even the most carefully managed political systems can be disrupted by a single fearless voice. The question now looms large. Will Labour recover from this public scrutiny, or has Ricky Gervais permanently shifted the conversation in the UK?